Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Wisdom channel. Tonight, we'll be exploring the mysterious world of Celtic folklore, where ancient stories speak of hidden realms, sacred places, and strange creatures. They speak of timeless traditions that encourage people to see the ordinary world in a completely different way. For centuries, these stories have captured people's imagination because they blur the line between history and mystery. They invite us into a beautiful landscape full of myth, magic, and wonder. Here, a simple journey can become a life-changing encounter, where the greatest lessons are often discovered by those willing to slow down, pay attention, and look beyond the surface. Some of these tales are thousands of years old, yet they continue to inspire debate, curiosity, and wonder. Were they preserving forgotten history, symbolic wisdom, or glimpses of something our modern world has almost learned to ignore? Whatever the answer may be, they continue to remind us that not every mystery is meant to be solved quickly, and not every truth arrives in ordinary ways. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your shoulders relax and notice your eyes grow heavy. And as your mind begins to loosen its grip on the day, join me as we explore this mythical world together. Let's begin. Celtic folklore teaches that the unseen world is always near. To the old Celtic imagination, reality was not a sealed room. It had doors, cracks, thresholds, and strange crossings. A hill might be more than a hill. A lake might be more than water. A sudden mist might not be treated as weather alone. This is what makes the tradition so compelling. It does not ask us to escape the world. It asks us to notice that ordinary life may be deeper than it looks. Some people see this as a memory of a world view where humans lived in constant relationship with forces they could not command. The practical lesson is still powerful. Walk carelessly, and you miss half of existence. Walk with attention, and the familiar begins to feel charged with meaning. In these stories, the hidden realm is not far away in heaven or locked in the past. It presses close to human life, especially when pride makes people forget to listen. Druids were remembered as keepers of law, memory, and sacred knowledge. The druid was not simply a forest magician in a cloak. In old accounts, druids appear as judges, teachers, advisors, ritual specialists, and guardians of deep cultural memory. That makes them far more interesting than the cartoon version. They stood at the meeting point of power and wisdom, which is always a dangerous place. A king might rule a people, but a druid could remind him what rule was supposed to mean. Their knowledge was not treated like information you could casually collect. It required training, discipline, and respect for spoken tradition. Some people wonder whether this made the druids living libraries, able to carry laws and stories without writing them down. That idea alone is astonishing. Imagine a society where memory was not a hobby, but a sacred responsibility. The deeper lesson is that wisdom becomes powerful when it is embodied. It is not enough to know. You must become trustworthy enough to hold what you know. Samhain made the boundary between worlds feel dangerously thin. Samhain was not just a seasonal festival with fires and gatherings. It marked a turning point when the year seemed to loosen its grip. Harvest was ending. Darkness was growing. The old cycle was closing, and that made people alert. In folklore, such moments are never empty. They are unstable. The living may remember the dead more strongly. The hidden beings may come closer. Old protections may matter more than usual. This is where the famous later imagery of ghosts and strange visitors begins to make deeper sense. It was not only fear, it was attention. People understood that endings can open doorways inside the mind and inside the community. Some people even see Samhain as a kind of spiritual pressure point in the year, when ordinary certainty becomes weaker. The lesson is simple and unsettling. When life changes season, we should not rush past the threshold. We should pause, prepare, and respect what may be crossing with us. Fairies were feared as powerful neighbors rather than harmless tiny creatures. The fairy world of Celtic folklore is not cute in the modern sense. It is older, sharper, and far more serious. These beings could bless a household, ruin a crop, mislead a traveler, or disturb a family's peace. They were not always evil, but they were not safe. That difference matters. People told stories about them with the careful tone used for dangerous neighbors. You respected their places. You avoided insulting them. You did not assume the human world had final authority over everything nearby. This makes fairy belief strangely philosophical. It teaches that power does not have to be visible to be real in human behavior. A community shaped by such stories would move through the land with caution, memory, and restraint. Some people think these tales preserve older ideas about hidden races or forgotten presences. Others hear them as warnings about arrogance. Either way, the message stays clear. Not everything small in appearance is small in consequence. Heroic courage often mattered less than keeping your word. Celtic heroes could fight with terrifying skill, but their deepest tests often began after they spoke a promise. An oath could become a trap. A vow could become heavier than a weapon. This is one reason these stories feel more mature than simple adventure tales. They understand that character is revealed when desire collides with duty. A warrior might win every battle and still fall because his speech bound him to a path he could not escape. That idea is gripping because it treats words as living forces. Speech creates obligation. Obligation shapes fate. In a world like that, careless talk is dangerous. Some people are drawn to the idea that ancient societies understood language as a kind of power technology. That may sound strange, but the moral insight is easy to grasp. What you say builds the world you must later inhabit. Courage without truth becomes noise. Strength without honor becomes merely another form of hunger. Bridget became both a goddess and a beloved Christian saint. Bridget is one of the most fascinating figures in the Celtic imagination because she seems to stand at a crossroads of religious history. In older tradition, she is associated with inspiration, healing, craft, and the returning light. In Christian Ireland, Saint Bridget became one of the great holy figures of the land. The overlap has always captured people's attention because it feels like a cultural memory refusing to vanish. Rather than disappearing, older reverence appears to have changed clothes. That does not make the story simple. It makes it richer. People kept returning to Bridget because she answered needs that were deeply human. Households needed blessing. Workers needed skill. The sick needed care. Communities needed signs that winter would not last forever. Some people see her survival as evidence that sacred figures can move across systems while keeping their emotional power. Her story teaches that wisdom traditions often transform rather than die. What people truly need tends to endure. Sacred wells turned healing into a practice of patience and reverence. A sacred well is a remarkable thing because it makes healing slow down. You do not simply demand relief and walk away. You approach. You wait. You observe a custom. You may leave an offering. You may return more than once. In Celtic regions, holy wells became places where folk practice and religious devotion often met. Their power was not only in the water, it was in the relationship formed around the place. This is easy to overlook in a modern world that wants instant results. The well teaches attention. It says that restoration may require humility before something older than personal will. Some people are fascinated by the idea that certain places seem to hold a kind of charge because generations have prayed there, suffered there, and hoped there. Whether taken literally or symbolically, the pattern is powerful. Healing becomes more than fixing a problem. It becomes a disciplined return to respect, gratitude, and trust. Otherworld journeys showed that wonder can change a person forever. In Celtic storytelling, a journey to the otherworld is rarely just a visit to a strange location. It is a test of perception. The traveler enters a realm where beauty may be overwhelming, time may behave differently, and ordinary assumptions may collapse. What makes these stories so memorable is that the hero does not come back unchanged. Sometimes he returns wiser. Sometimes he returns wounded. Sometimes he discovers that the world he left behind has moved on without him. That detail gives the tales their haunting force. They warn that wonder has a price. Some people compare these journeys to altered states, visionary experience, or deep encounters with the unconscious. The old storytellers did not need modern language to understand the same basic truth. There are experiences so intense that they divide a life into before and after. The lesson is not to avoid wonder. It is to know that true wonder does not entertain us. It transforms us. The Tuatha De Danann were divine beings who became hidden people. The Tuatha De Danann are among the most astonishing figures in Irish tradition because their story feels like a mythic history of disappearance. They arrive with power, skill, and mystery. They rule, contend, and shape the sacred imagination of the land. Then, after defeat, they withdraw into the Shire, the mounds and hidden places that become associated with the fairy world. This is not a simple fall from greatness. It is a transformation into secrecy. Some people hear in this story a memory of old gods becoming folklore. Others wonder whether it preserves cultural echoes of earlier peoples pushed into legend. What matters for the listener is the pattern. A presence once treated as divine does not vanish. It goes underground, both in the land and in the mind. The tale teaches that what a culture stops naming openly may continue to influence it from below. Forgotten powers do not always leave. Sometimes they become hidden neighbors. Celtic stories often treat nature as alive with intelligence. In these traditions, nature is not merely a backdrop where human drama happens. It is an active participant. Rivers can hold memory. Animals can carry messages. Trees can stand near sacred knowledge. Weather can feel like a sign rather than an accident. This does not mean every tale says the same thing. It means the overall worldview is relational. The human being is not placed at the center as a lonely master. He lives inside a field of presences. That idea feels deeply relevant now because many people sense that modern life has made the natural world too silent in our minds. Celtic folklore offers a different instinct. It asks us to behave as if the land is listening. Some people take that literally. Others treat it as an ethical imagination that trains respect. Either way, the result is powerful. A living world cannot be used casually. It must be approached with care because attention itself becomes a form of wisdom. Cu Chulainn showed how greatness can arrive with terrible cost. Cu Chulainn is not fascinating because he is simply strong. He is fascinating because his strength burns too intensely to last. From an early age, his life is marked by astonishing ability, fierce loyalty, and a destiny that seems almost impossible to escape. His battle frenzy makes him more than an ordinary warrior, yet it also separates him from ordinary peace. That is what gives his legend such force. Greatness is shown as dazzling, but also dangerous. Some people see him as the perfect ancient example of the gifted person consumed by the very power that makes him exceptional. He wins admiration, but he does not win a simple life. The stories around him push us to ask a hard question. What is the value of glory if it devours the one who carries it? His lesson is not anti-courage. It is more serious than that. A person may become legendary and still be deeply trapped by his own fire. Bards carried history through praise, satire, and disciplined memory. The bard was not merely an entertainer who sang after dinner. In Celtic society, the keeper of song could shape reputation, preserve ancestry, and give public meaning to events. That made the role both beautiful and dangerous. Praise could lift a name into remembrance. Satire could wound honor in a way people took seriously. Memory was the instrument behind both. This is hard for modern listeners to imagine because we store facts outside ourselves, then call them up with a device. In older oral cultures, trained memory was a human achievement. It required discipline, technique, and a serious sense of duty. Some people find it almost mind-bending that an entire community's past could live inside voices rather than books. The bard reminds us that stories are never harmless background noise. They decide who is admired, who is shamed, and what a people believes about itself. Control the story, and you influence the future. Gisa were sacred taboos that could protect or destroy heroes. A jays was a personal prohibition or command that carried supernatural weight. It might forbid a hero from eating a certain food, refusing a certain request, or taking a certain action. At first, this can sound strangely specific. Then the deeper brilliance appears. A jays turns destiny into a moral pressure point. The hero is not defeated by random bad luck. He is cornered by the terms that shaped his own life. In many tales, disaster comes when separate obligations collide and no clean choice remains. That is why these stories feel so psychologically sharp. They understand that people are often trapped not by weakness, but by competing duties. Some people see Gisa as ancient codes for personal energetic rules or fate contracts. Even without that interpretation, they remain gripping. Every life has conditions that should not be violated. The wise person learns his limits before the crisis arrives. The foolish one discovers them only when escape has narrowed. Morrigan revealed that sovereignty often speaks through warning and challenge. The Morrigan is often remembered through battle, prophecy, and confrontation, but reducing her to a war figure misses her deeper significance. She appears where power is being tested. She challenges heroes. She announces consequences. She stands near the frightening edge of kingship and fate. That makes her one of the most compelling figures in Celtic tradition. She does not comfort people into greatness. She confronts them with what greatness demands. Some people are drawn to the idea that she represents the land's refusal to be ruled by weakness or dishonor. In that reading, sovereignty is not a crown placed gently on a head. It is a living force that examines the one who seeks authority. Her presence teaches a hard lesson. Real power must be worthy of the world it affects. If a leader lacks truth, courage, or restraint, the warning will come. It may come through conflict. It may come through collapse. Either way, ignored warnings become destiny. Shape-shifting taught that identity is more fluid than pride admits. Celtic tales are filled with beings who change form, and the changes are never merely decorative. A person may become an animal. A divine figure may appear in disguise. A curse may trap a soul in a body it did not choose. These transformations make the listener question the stability of identity. Are we only what we seem to be? Are we defined by appearance, memory, behavior, or some deeper essence that survives change? This is where folklore becomes philosophy without sounding like a lecture. Some people connect these stories to shamanic ideas, trance experience, or ancient beliefs about souls moving through forms. The tales themselves remain powerful because they challenge pride. The human shape is not treated as the only meaningful one. The visible self is not treated as final. When a story changes a body, it often reveals a truth that ordinary life concealed. Transformation becomes a way of exposing what was hidden beneath the surface. Tir na an Og offered youth, beauty, and the sorrow of return. Tir na an Og is often described as a land of youth, but the real fascination lies in what happens when someone comes back. The place promises a kind of perfection beyond ordinary aging. Its sweetness feels almost impossible to resist. Yet the return to human time can be devastating. The traveler may discover that many years have passed, although the experience felt brief. That idea is one of the most haunting in Celtic lore because it turns paradise into a problem. If you leave suffering behind, do you also leave belonging behind? If you gain endless youth, what happens to the people who remain mortal? Some people hear in this tale a warning about seductive escape. Others see it as a memory of visionary steppes where time seems altered. The lesson is quietly severe. Not every beautiful realm is truly home. A life without loss may also be a life cut off from human love, duty, and return. Oshin land that paradise can still separate you from home. Oshin's journey is moving because it does not treat wonder as a simple reward. He leaves for an enchanted realm and enters a life beyond ordinary decay. For a time, it seems he has reached the dream hidden inside every human longing. Then the ache of memory returns. He wants to see Ireland again. That desire is deeply human. No matter how perfect a place may appear, the heart still remembers where it began. When he returns, the world he knew has changed beyond recognition. His story carries a sadness that feels larger than folklore. Some people see it as a meditation on exile, aging, and the cost of crossing into extraordinary experience. It also speaks to anyone who has outgrown a former life and later found that return is impossible. The teaching is sharp and compassionate. You can be blessed and still be separated. You can be given marvels and still long for the ground that made you. Cauldrons symbolized renewal, abundance, and wisdom beyond ordinary hunger. The cauldron appears again and again because it gathers several deep human hopes into one object. It can feed. It can transform. It can hold secret knowledge. It can suggest rebirth, not as a vague idea, but as something cooked slowly in darkness before it is ready to emerge. This makes the cauldron far more than a household vessel. In mythic thinking, it becomes a container of possibility. What enters it may not come out the same. Some people love to speculate that such images preserve memories of ritual technologies, initiation chambers, or symbolic practices designed to change consciousness. Even at the level of story, the meaning is strong. Wisdom is not always found by climbing higher. Sometimes it is made by remaining with what must simmer. The cauldron teaches patience with transformation. Hunger wants quick satisfaction. Deeper renewal asks for time, heat, and surrender to a process we cannot fully control from the outside. The salmon of wisdom made knowledge something earned through encounter. The salmon of wisdom is one of the great Celtic images of learning because it refuses to make knowledge seem ordinary. Wisdom does not arrive as a lecture. It lives in a creature shaped by sacred waters and ancient nourishment. The one who receives it does so through a surprising accident, which makes the story even more memorable. Fionn gains insight after touching the cooking fish and tasting his burned thumb. That small moment changes his destiny. The tale suggests that wisdom is not always handed to the person who planned to possess it. Sometimes it comes through service, attention, and contact with something greater than ambition. Some people read this as a coded story about initiation, where the student receives power before anyone expects it. The practical lesson is still wonderfully clear. You may be closer to insight when you are doing the humble task before you. The doorway to wisdom is not always grand. Sometimes it is immediate. Fionn mac Cumhaill became wise by tasting what he guarded. Fionn's early story is fascinating because it begins with apprenticeship rather than conquest. He is not introduced as a finished master. He serves the poet Finnegas, who has spent years seeking the salmon connected with ultimate knowledge. When the fish is finally caught, Fionn is told to cook it, but not eat it. Then comes the tiny accident that changes everything. He burns his thumb, puts it in his mouth, and receives the wisdom meant for another. This is not merely a clever twist. It raises a deep question about destiny. Can wisdom be controlled by the one who searches for it, or does it choose the person prepared by character? Some people see this as one of folklore's great mysteries of transmission. The student receives what the teacher pursued. Yet the teacher recognizes the truth and does not deny it. That detail matters. The story honors both the seeker and the chosen moment. Real wisdom may require humility from everyone nearby. Hazel trees linked poetic insight with patient natural growth. In Celtic tradition, the hazel was not just a useful tree. It became connected with deep knowing, especially in stories where wisdom gathers slowly before it is received. The famous salmon of wisdom fed on hazelnuts that fell into sacred water, which means insight was imagined as something nourished by the natural world before it reached a human mind. That detail is strange and brilliant. Knowledge does not begin in a classroom. It begins in a living pattern that existed before the student arrived. To a listener who enjoys hidden meanings, the hazel almost feels like a natural library. Its branches, nuts, and seasonal rhythms suggest that learning has roots. Some people read this as a coded lesson about how ancient cultures watched plants so closely that trees became teachers. The practical wisdom is clear. Do not rush understanding. The mind ripens like fruit. The deepest answers often come after long attention, not after restless searching. Rowan branches were trusted as protection against harmful enchantment. The rowan tree carried a reputation for guarding homes, animals, and travelers from forces that could not be handled by strength alone. That makes it fascinating because it shows a world where protection was not only physical. A doorway, a cradle, or a cattle shed might need spiritual defense as much as practical care. In folklore, rowan wood could be placed or carried as a sign that the household was not unprotected. Whether someone believes this literally or sees it as symbolic, the psychology is powerful. People were giving shape to the fear that unseen influence can enter ordinary life. The rowan offered a way to answer that fear without panic. It turned anxiety into ritual action. Those who enjoy alternative interpretations sometimes wonder whether such customs preserved old botanical knowledge or energy beliefs hidden inside folk practice. The lesson remains useful. When people feel vulnerable, they create boundaries. A meaningful boundary can steady the mind before danger even arrives. Iron was often believed to weaken fairy power. There is something striking about the old belief that iron could protect humans from certain supernatural beings. A nail, a horseshoe, or a small iron object might be placed near a bed, doorway, or stable. The idea seems simple at first, yet it opens a much larger mystery. Why would one material have power against hidden forces? Some people have suggested that iron represented human technology pushing back against an older, enchanted world. Others imagine that the metal carried symbolic authority because it came from fire, earth, and skilled craft. The deeper story may be about boundaries between worlds. Iron belongs to the forge. It is practical, hard, and humanly controlled. Fairy power belongs to ambiguity and enchantment. When the two meet, folklore says the strange one retreats. The lesson is not only about a metal charm. It says that clear, grounded reality can sometimes defend the mind against confusion, seduction, and fear. Changelings expressed ancient fears about illness, difference, and belonging. Changeling stories are unsettling because they turn a family fear into a supernatural explanation. In these tales, a child or loved one seems altered, and the community imagines that the true person has been taken, while another being has been left behind. Modern listeners often hear the sadness beneath the belief. Illness, disability, unusual behavior, or sudden weakness could be interpreted through the language people had available. That does not make the stories harmless, but it does make them deeply revealing. Folklore often shows us how a society tried to make sense of pain before medicine had better answers. Some people also see changeling tales as evidence of a wider fear that identity can be replaced without warning. The most important lesson is compassion. When people do not understand difference, fear can become a story, and that story can become dangerous. Wisdom asks us to notice the suffering beneath old explanations, without losing sight of the human beings involved. Banshees warned families that death was approaching the household. The banshee is often treated as a figure of terror, but the older idea is more subtle. She does not usually cause death, she announces it. Her cry belongs to the strange emotional space between warning and mourning. That makes her one of the most memorable beings in Irish folklore, because she gives sound to what families dread but cannot avoid. In some traditions, she is connected with particular lineages, which makes the story feel intimate rather than random. Death is not just an event. It is a disturbance that reaches into ancestry and belonging. Those who enjoy hidden history thinking sometimes wonder whether the banshee preserves traces of ritual keening, the formal lament once performed for the dead. That possibility makes the legend even richer. A human practice may have become a supernatural presence. The teaching is quietly profound. Grief often arrives before the final moment. Sometimes the soul hears the change before the mind is ready to accept it. Selkies carried deep lessons about freedom, love, and possession. Selkie stories have endured because they touch a painful truth with remarkable clarity. A seal being removes its skin and becomes human, but if another person steals that skin, the Selkie may be trapped in a life it did not freely choose. These tales are often framed as romance, yet beneath them is a serious moral warning. Love without freedom becomes captivity. Desire that controls another person is not devotion. It is possession wearing a tender mask. The skin matters because it represents the hidden self that must be kept safe. Some people see Selkies as symbols of the soul's true nature, especially when ordinary life demands a false identity. Others hear memories of coastal communities watching seals and feeling that intelligence looked back from the water. The lesson is immediate. Never confuse closeness with ownership. The person you love may carry a deeper home within them. To honor them is to leave the door open. Kelpies reminded travelers that beauty can hide serious danger. The Kelpie is one of the clearest warnings in Celtic folklore because its danger begins with attraction. It may appear as a powerful horse near water, inviting a traveler to come closer. The danger is not ugly. It is impressive, tempting, and alive with promise. That is why the tale works so well. It teaches people to question what calls to them, especially near places where one careless step can be fatal. On a practical level, these stories may have warned children and travelers about rivers, lochs, and marshy ground. Yet the symbolic lesson goes further. Not every invitation deserves trust. Not every beautiful form has kind intentions. Some people enjoy reading the Kelpie as an old encoded safety system, where landscape danger became a supernatural character easy to remember. That may be exactly why the story lasted. Fear becomes more useful when it has a face. Wisdom begins when fascination does not erase caution. Pukas could guide, trick, or terrify depending on the encounter. The puka is difficult to reduce to one simple role, which is exactly why it feels so alive. In different stories, it may appear as an animal shape, a disturbing presence, a mischievous guide, or a force that unsettles human certainty. This unpredictability is the point. The puka belongs to the part of folklore where the world refuses to behave according to human expectations. It can help, but it cannot be controlled. It can frighten, yet it may also reveal something important. Some people are drawn to the idea that such beings represent encounters with the wild mind of the landscape, especially at night or in lonely places. The deeper lesson is about humility. We prefer life to sort itself into safe categories. Benefactor here, enemy there. The puka refuses that comfort. It teaches that some forces must be approached with alertness rather than judgment. The unknown may not be evil, but it is rarely obedient. Leprechauns were solitary craftsmen before they became comic mascots. The modern leprechaun is often bright, silly, and simplified. But the older figure is more interesting. He was commonly imagined as a solitary shoemaker or cobbler, linked with hidden wealth and sharp bargaining. That detail matters because it moves him away from pure joke and into a stranger category. He is skilled. He is secretive. He knows where treasure is hidden, but he does not hand it over easily. In many stories, the human who catches him must keep constant watch, and the failure comes through distraction. That is a wonderful piece of folk psychology. Greed makes people careless. A treasure hunter may lose everything because his attention breaks for one moment. Some people see the leprechaun as a miniature guardian of wealth that human beings have not earned. The teaching is surprisingly practical. Craft, secrecy, and discipline outlast wishful thinking. When a person wants reward without patience, even a tiny trickster can defeat him. Brownies helped households when they were respected and left alone. Brownie traditions are fascinating because they imagine helpful supernatural labor with very clear social rules. A brownie might assist with chores during the night, but it usually expected respect rather than direct payment. Give too much attention, mock it, or offer the wrong gift, and the help might vanish. This is more than a charming household tale. It shows how folklore trained people to think about gratitude, boundaries, and invisible service. Every home depends on work that can be overlooked. The brownie makes that hidden labor impossible to ignore. Some people read these stories as remnants of older domestic spirit beliefs, where houses were not treated as dead structures, but as places with their own relationships. The lesson is small and sharp. Assistance should not be exploited just because it is quiet. Respect keeps a household in balance. When people become entitled to what supports them, they may lose the very help they never properly valued. The Green Man suggests that wild growth outlives human control. The Green Man is most often recognized as a face surrounded by leaves, especially in medieval carvings, but the idea has gathered a wider symbolic life. He feels like a reminder that the living earth keeps pushing through human systems. Walls age, empires vanish, stone buildings crack, growth returns. That is why the image grips the imagination, even when its exact meaning remains debated. It sits between Christian architecture, older nature reverence, and modern longing for ecological wisdom. Some people see in him a hidden survival of pre-Christian green power. Others view him as a later artistic symbol that gained spiritual meaning over time. Either way, he works because he confronts human arrogance. We build, name, and organize, then vegetation calmly returns to the edges. The teaching is not anti-human. It is corrective. We are not separate from the living world. The force that grows through forests also grows through us, whether we admit it or not. Cernunnos represents abundance, animals, and the mystery of wildness. Cernunnos is one of the most intriguing figures connected with ancient Celtic religion because he is often shown with antlers, animals, and signs of plenty. The image feels direct, but its meaning is not simple. He seems to stand at the meeting point of wealth and wilderness. That is a powerful combination. Abundance is not shown as sterile treasure locked away from life. It is connected with creatures, fertility, movement, and the untamed world. Some people are fascinated by the possibility that Cernunnos preserves a very old spiritual memory of human relationship with animals before nature was reduced to resource. The antlers especially invite attention because they grow, fall, and return. That cycle alone carries a lesson. Wildness is not chaos. It has rhythm. It renews itself by forms of loss that are also preparation. His presence teaches that prosperity without connection becomes empty. True abundance may require honoring the living powers that make survival possible. Triple figures showed that power could unfold in repeated forms. Celtic tradition often presents significant beings through patterns of three, and that habit has fascinated listeners for generations. The point is not only arithmetic. A triple form can show intensity, completion, or power seen from several angles. A figure may appear as three sisters, three aspects, or a repeated presence across a story. This makes the sacred feel layered rather than flat. It suggests that one force can express itself in different ways without becoming separate. Some people connect this pattern with ancient ideas about life stages, social order, or the rhythm of ritual thinking. What matters most is how memorable it becomes. 3 is easy to remember, easy to speak, and strong in oral storytelling. The deeper teaching is about complexity. A person, a power, or a truth may not be exhausted by a single face. Wisdom sometimes means recognizing the same force returning in another form, then another, until we finally understand its pattern. Stone circles became places where memory, ritual, and mystery gathered. Across Celtic lands and nearby regions, ancient stones have drawn stories to themselves like iron to a magnet. Many were already old when later Celtic-speaking peoples encountered them, which makes the folklore around them even more fascinating. People often explained such monuments through giants, spirits, saints, or impossible builders. That reaction is deeply human. When a community inherits a structure too ancient to explain, imagination steps in to keep relationship alive. The stones become more than archaeology. They become anchors of memory. Some people love to speculate that these sites preserved knowledge of the sky, seasonal timing, or forgotten ceremonial systems. Others focus on the way local legends protect a place by making it meaningful. The lesson is that mystery has social power. A landmark without a story can be ignored. A landmark wrapped in wonder becomes harder to violate. The stones teach that memory does not only live in books. Sometimes it stands in the weather. Hill forts kept stories of kingship close to the land. A hill fort is not just an old defensive structure on high ground. In folklore and memory, it often becomes a sign that power once had a visible relationship with place. From a height, a ruler could see fields, roads, rivers, and approaching danger. That physical position shaped the imagination. Leadership was not abstract. It stood above the community and remained tied to the surrounding land. Many hill forts belonged to complex periods of settlement and conflict, yet later stories often turned them into seats of kings, heroes, or hidden presences. Some people are fascinated by the idea that these raised sites acted like memory batteries, holding traces of authority long after their practical use faded. Whether taken literally or not, the insight is strong. Power leaves marks. A community remembers where decisions were made, where danger was watched, and where identity was defended. The hill itself becomes a witness. Folklore keeps asking what kind of leadership once stood there. The Isle of Man preserved Manannán as a guardian presence. The Isle of Man holds one of the most captivating relationships between landscape and legend. Manannán is remembered there not merely as a distant mythic figure, but as a protector associated with the island itself. Stories connect him with mist, sea power, and the guarding of boundaries. That makes perfect sense for an island people. The surrounding water is both road and war. The weather can conceal or reveal. A protective deity linked with shifting conditions speaks directly to lived experience. Some people see this as a sign that old mythic figures survived most strongly where geography made them feel necessary. Manannán did not remain an abstract character. He became part of how people imagined safety. The lesson reaches beyond one island. A place becomes spiritually powerful when its dangers and blessings are understood together. Protection is not always a fortress. Sometimes it is the wisdom of knowing when to be seen and when to be hidden. Manannán mac Lir ruled seas, mists, and hidden crossings. Manannán is fascinating because he belongs to borders that never stay still. The sea changes every moment. Mist alters what can be seen. A crossing begins with certainty on one shore and ends in uncertainty on another. In mythic terms, that makes him a master of passage. He can guide between realms, cloak places from enemies, and connect human life with the otherworld. This is not only dramatic storytelling, it reflects a deep understanding of travel before modern safety. To cross water was to enter risk, dependence, and transformation. Some people who enjoy speculative readings see Manannán as a guardian of thresholds, a figure linked to altered states and hidden dimensions. Even without that, his meaning is striking. Life is full of crossings where the old map fails. A person leaving childhood, grief, love, or home enters a kind of mist. The teaching is that transition requires respect. The passage itself may be sacred. Lugh embodied skill because mastery could unite many arts. Lugh stands out because he is not defined by one talent alone. In story, he gains entry by proving that he possesses many forms of skill, not just a single specialty. That is an astonishing model of mastery. He is a warrior, craftsman, musician, strategist, and more. Yet the deeper point is not showing off. It is integration. A society facing crisis needs someone who can bring many abilities into one focused purpose. That makes Lugh feel surprisingly modern. In a specialized world, he reminds us that wisdom may come from connecting fields that others keep apart. Some people see him as a figure of radiant intelligence, almost like a human blueprint for applied genius. His lesson is practical and inspiring. Do not shrink yourself into one narrow identity too soon. Train the hand. Train the mind. Train the ear. When different skills begin to serve one clear aim, ordinary ability can become something close to destiny. Lughnasadh celebrated harvest through games, gathering, and remembered sacrifice. Lughnasadh is fascinating because it connects abundance with effort and loss. It was a seasonal festival linked with the beginning of harvest, but its meaning reaches beyond food. Traditions associated with Lugh and with the commemoration of Tal Tew, whose labor for the land becomes part of the festival memory. That detail changes everything. Harvest is not treated as free reward. It comes through work, endurance, and someone's cost. Communities gathered, competed, traded, and marked the season because survival was communal. A field of grain looks simple only to the person who did not plant, protect, and wait for it. Some people see seasonal festivals like this as ancient systems for aligning human emotion with agricultural reality. That sounds practical, yet it also feels sacred. The lesson is that gratitude should be public. When a community remembers what abundance required, celebration becomes wiser. It teaches people to receive prosperity without forgetting the sacrifice beneath it. Imbolc welcomed returning light through Brigid's blessing and household care. Imbolc belongs to the early stirring of the year, when winter has not fully released its hold, yet something has begun to shift. This is why its connection with Brigid feels so meaningful. The festival does not celebrate blazing summer triumph. It honors the first sign that life is moving again. In many traditions, attention turns toward the home, the hearth, the animals, and the hope of renewal. That makes Imbolc intimate rather than grand. It teaches people to notice beginnings before they become obvious. Some people are drawn to the idea that old seasonal rites trained communities to detect subtle changes in light, weather, and animal life. Spiritually, that becomes a lesson in patience. Renewal rarely arrives all at once. It often begins as a small sign that must be protected. Imbolc reminds us that care given at the threshold of change can shape what grows later. A blessing may begin in the ordinary work of tending. Beltane used fire to mark protection, fertility, and renewal. Beltane carries the feeling of a world crossing into bright growth. Fire stood at the center of its symbolism because flame can cleanse, guard, and awaken. In folk practice, people and animals were sometimes brought near or between fires as part of seasonal protection. This is gripping because it shows a society taking the danger of new abundance seriously. Growth brings promise, but it also brings vulnerability. Crops, herds, families, and futures need safeguarding at the moment they expand. Some people see Beltane fires as remnants of very old rites, designed to charge the season with communal intention. Others read them as practical rituals that made people feel united before the risks of summer labor. The deeper teaching is clear. New life should not be entered casually. Beginnings need protection. Desire needs direction. Energy needs blessing. Fire becomes the visible sign of a hidden decision, which is to step into the fertile season with courage and care. Celtic festivals tied spiritual time to weather, food, and work. The old seasonal calendar is powerful because it refuses to separate spirit from survival. Sacred time was not floating above ordinary life. It was tied to lambing, planting, harvest, darkness, travel, hunger, and preparation. This makes the festivals feel grounded. They answered the basic question every community must face. How do we live well inside change? A festival marked a threshold, then gave people a pattern for crossing it together. That pattern could include fire, feasting, gathering, blessing, or restraint, depending on the season. Some people find this almost radical today because modern time often feels mechanical. We count days, but we may not feel them. The older approach treated the year as a living teacher. Each turning asked for a different human response. The lesson is simple and demanding. Wisdom is not the same in every season. There is a time to store, a time to risk, a time to mourn, and a time to begin again. Sovereignty goddesses tested rulers before granting rightful authority. In Celtic tradition, rulership was not imagined as mere domination. It required recognition from a deeper feminine power, often connected with the land itself. A king might need to prove worthiness through an encounter with a sovereignty figure, sometimes in a form that tests his perception and humility. This is extraordinary political philosophy inside myth. Authority is not legitimate just because a man wants it, inherits it, or takes it by force. It must be accepted by the living order he intends to govern. Some people see these stories as remnants of very old rites where kingship depended on symbolic union with the land. Even without that interpretation, the moral force is clear. A leader who cannot honor what appears difficult, strange, or humbling is not ready for power. The test reveals the ruler before the kingdom suffers under him. The teaching remains sharp today. Leadership should be granted only to those who can serve what they seek to command. Kingship depended on harmony between leader, land, and people. Celtic stories often suggest that a ruler's character affected more than politics. The health of the realm could be imagined as connected to the justice of the king. This makes leadership feel cosmic, but also deeply practical. If the ruler is greedy, cowardly, or false, the community suffers. If he is generous, brave, and balanced, order has a chance to flourish. Some people call this mythic thinking, but it contains hard social intelligence. A leader sets the emotional weather of a people. His decisions shape food, safety, trust, and law. The land becomes a mirror for governance because ordinary people experience bad rule through very real hardship. That is why these tales still work. They refuse to let authority hide behind ceremony. Power must produce life. The lesson is severe and useful. A title is not proof of fitness. The true measure of rule is whether the people and the place can breathe under it. Bad rulers could make the land itself seem wounded. In these stories, misrule is not kept inside a palace. It spreads outward until the world feels disordered. Crops may fail in the imagination. Animals may suffer. Communities may lose confidence. The land itself can seem to protest against the person who governs without justice. This idea may sound mystical, but it reflects a very real human experience. When leadership becomes corrupt, everything connected to daily life begins to feel less secure. People stop trusting promises. Work feels heavier. Hope becomes fragile. Some people are fascinated by the possibility that ancient tales encoded environmental memory, where damaged land and damaged authority were understood together. The important point is not whether every detail is literal. The story teaches accountability. A ruler cannot claim private vice when public consequences follow. The wound of bad leadership appears in the fields, the roads, the homes, and the faces of ordinary people. Folklore remembers what official history sometimes tries to excuse. Hospitality was treated as a sacred measure of character. Hospitality in Celtic storytelling is never just good manners. It is a test of the soul. A stranger at the door may be poor, disguised, dangerous, or secretly powerful. How a household receives that person reveals what its people truly value. This is why the theme is so gripping. The ordinary act of feeding a guest becomes morally charged. In a world of long roads, uncertain weather, and limited protection, hospitality could also be a matter of survival. To refuse it without cause was not merely rude. It could be dishonorable. Some people see these tales as social technology, stories designed to make generosity dependable before formal systems could guarantee safety. The lesson remains alive. Character is exposed when there is no obvious reward. The guest may never repay you. The stranger may never praise you. Yet the way you treat someone at the edge of need tells the truth about your inner law. Oaths carried spiritual weight because speech was never merely sound. In Celtic folklore, a spoken promise could bind a person more tightly than chains. This is not because people were naive about language. It is because they understood that society depends on trust, and trust depends on speech that means something. An oath called the invisible world to witness human intention. That made breaking it more than a private failure. It damaged honor, relationship, and sometimes destiny itself. Some people who love alternative ideas see ancient oath-taking as a kind of verbal magic, where words shaped reality through attention and belief. Even on a practical level, that is not far from the truth. A marriage vow, a legal pledge, or a public promise can change the course of lives. The old stories simply make that power visible. The lesson is bracing. Do not treat language as disposable. Every serious promise creates a future self who must either stand inside it or be broken by betraying it. Satire was feared because words were believed to alter honor. The idea that satire could wound is one of the most fascinating parts of Celtic tradition. A skilled poet did not need a sword to damage someone's standing. A sharp public verse could expose greed, cowardice, or arrogance, and the social result could be devastating. In some accounts, satire is imagined with almost supernatural force. That may sound extreme, yet the principle is familiar today. Reputation can be altered by language in a single public moment. A name can be lifted, stained, defended, or destroyed through speech. The old world understood this without pretending words were harmless. Some people see bardic satire as an early form of social regulation, where poets held elites accountable through fear of shame. The deeper teaching is about responsibility. Speech is not weak because it is invisible. It travels through minds. It changes how people are seen. It can correct injustice, but it can also become cruelty. Wisdom must govern the tongue. Poetry held power because memory could preserve or destroy reputation. In an oral culture, poetry was not decoration. It was storage, judgment, and transmission. A well-made line could survive because rhythm made memory stronger. That gave poets a strange authority. They could carry the names of the brave forward, and they could make failure difficult to forget. This is one reason old societies took trained speech so seriously. The person who controlled memorable language controlled a portion of the future. Some people compare this to a kind of ancient media system, but with human memory instead of machines. The idea is electrifying. Before archives and recordings, a voice could decide whether your deeds vanished or entered communal remembrance. The lesson reaches us directly. What people repeat becomes culture. What culture repeats becomes identity. Poetry, in this sense, is not soft. It is a tool for shaping what survives. The wise person asks not only what is true, but what is worth remembering, and how it should be carried. Names mattered because identity and destiny were closely bound. In many Celtic tales, a name is never just a label. It can reveal origin, reputation, prophecy, or hidden nature. To name someone is to place them inside a story, and sometimes that story begins shaping what they become. This is not as strange as it first sounds. Even today, a name can carry family expectation, cultural memory, honor, shame, or blessing. In folklore, that everyday force is magnified until it becomes destiny. Some figures receive names after a remarkable event, which means identity is earned through action rather than assigned at random. Others conceal names because knowing the true one may give power. Some people connect this to old beliefs that language touches essence. The teaching is practical and profound. Be careful what you call yourself. Be careful what you call others. A repeated name can become a path, a burden, or a permission. The words attached to a life may help decide how that life is understood. Knots became later symbols of continuity, connection, and devotion. Celtic knotwork is famous today, yet its fascination comes from more than decoration. The interlaced lines refuse to behave like ordinary borders. They pass over and under each other, then return into the pattern without a clear beginning or end. That makes them perfect symbols for relationship, memory, and commitment. In later Christian manuscripts and stonework, this visual language became part of sacred art. A page could teach through design before a person read a single word. Some people see knotwork as a map of hidden order, almost like a visual code for how life is woven together beneath the surface. Even without that speculation, the message is powerful. Nothing meaningful stands alone. Family, duty, ancestry, faith, and choice all cross through one another. The knot asks us to notice that connection is not always simple. It can be difficult, tangled, and demanding. Yet when held with patience, the pattern becomes beautiful because every strand has a place. Spirals suggested movement, return, and the unfolding of life. The spiral is one of the oldest and most compelling shapes linked with ancient Atlantic art, and it still has the power to stop the eye. It moves inward and outward at once. It can feel like a path into the center, or a path back into the world. That double meaning makes it perfect for a culture interested in cycles rather than straight lines. Birth, growth, decay, and renewal do not move like a ruler drawn across a page. They circle, deepen, and return in altered form. Some people believe spiral carvings may have marked astronomical knowledge, ritual movement, or altered states of awareness. What makes the image so gripping is that no single explanation exhausts it. The spiral teaches through motion. A person may think he is going backward, yet he may be returning at a wiser level. Life often brings us back to old lessons until we learn how to move through them differently. Animals often arrived as messengers from deeper realms of meaning. In Celtic folklore, an animal is rarely just scenery. A creature may appear at the exact moment when a human being needs warning, guidance, or testing. This gives the stories a charged sense of attention. The world seems to communicate through what crosses the path. A bird at a battlefield, a stag in the forest, or a strange hound at the threshold can change the direction of a tale. Some people read these encounters as memories of a time when animal behavior was observed with extraordinary seriousness. Others see them as signs of a worldview where the natural and the spiritual were not separated. The practical lesson is still useful. Human intelligence is not the only intelligence worth noticing. Animals move according to senses and patterns we often ignore. Folklore trains the listener to ask what an encounter might be teaching. Sometimes the message is not spoken. It appears, waits to be understood, then disappears into the landscape. Ravens signaled battle, prophecy, and the unsettling presence of fate. Ravens have a sharp place in Celtic tradition because they gather where human control breaks down. They are linked with battlefields, omens, and powers that see the outcome before ordinary people do. Their presence is not decorative. It carries a feeling of consequence. When a raven appears in these stories, the listener understands that events may be moving beyond personal desire. This is why the bird often connects with figures of prophecy and war. Some people find ravens fascinating because they are intelligent scavengers, living close to death while showing remarkable awareness. That natural behavior may have made them perfect carriers of supernatural meaning. The deeper teaching is not simply dark. It is honest. Fate is unsettling because it reveals that courage does not guarantee safety, and planning does not conquer every outcome. The raven asks us to face the part of life that watches from above the struggle, where the final shape may already be forming. Deer appeared as guides between wilderness and spiritual discovery. A deer in Celtic story often does more than run through the forest. It draws the human being away from ordinary direction. A hunter follows it, and the hunt becomes a journey into strangeness. A ruler sees it, and the landscape begins to reveal a hidden law. This makes the deer a brilliant narrative device because it turns pursuit into initiation. The person thinks he is chasing an animal, yet he may actually be following a summons. Some people connect this pattern with old hunting cultures where the animal was not only prey, but a teacher of movement, patience, and attention. The deer's grace matters because it cannot be easily possessed. It appears, leads, escapes, and leaves the seeker changed. The lesson is clear. Not everything worth following can be captured. Some encounters exist to move us into the right place, not to become ours. The wise hunter learns when pursuit should become reverence. Swans carried beauty, transformation, and sorrow in many tales. Swans are among the most emotionally powerful beings in Celtic folklore because they hold opposites together. They are beautiful, yet their stories often involve exile, enchantment, or grief. Their human-like grace makes transformation feel believable. A person under a spell may become a swan, and the listener still senses a soul inside the altered form. This gives the tales a deep tenderness. The outward body changes, but love and memory continue. Some people are drawn to the idea that swan stories preserve old beliefs about the soul traveling through different states. Others hear a more human lesson about endurance during suffering. The swan glides on the surface, while the story beneath it is often full of loss. That contrast is what makes the symbol so lasting. It teaches that beauty does not cancel pain. A life can carry sorrow and still move with dignity. Transformation may wound us, but it can also reveal a deeper strength. Boars represented ferocity, feasting, and the testing of warriors. The boar was not a harmless emblem in Celtic imagination. It was a dangerous animal, strong, aggressive, and difficult to face at close range. That made it ideal for stories about courage. To hunt a boar was not just to gather food. It was to confront a force that could kill the hunter. In heroic tales, the pursuit often becomes a test of nerve, skill, and social honor. Feasting then gives the animal a second meaning. Its body becomes part of public celebration, where bravery and abundance meet at the table. Some people see boar symbolism as a reminder that old warrior cultures respected animals because danger made respect unavoidable. The lesson is direct. Real strength is tested by what can hurt you back. Comfort does not create courage. A person learns what he is made of when appetite, fear, and discipline all meet in one charged moment. The boar brings that moment into sharp focus. Hounds revealed loyalty, status, and supernatural protection. Hounds appear throughout Celtic tradition as more than hunting companions. they can mark noble status, guard a household, or signal connection to powers beyond ordinary life. Their loyalty makes them emotionally important, while their speed and bite make them symbols of force. In some stories, a hound is tied so closely to a hero that identity and reputation become linked. Losing such an animal is not a minor inconvenience. It can feel like a wound to honor itself. Some people are fascinated by the idea that trained hounds represented a bridge between wild instinct and human order. They belonged to the house, yet they carried the senses of the wilderness. That is why they are perfect guardians in folklore. They notice what humans miss. The teaching is about devotion with teeth. Loyalty is not passive affection. It protects, watches, and stands ready. A faithful companion can become the boundary between safety and disaster. Horses were linked with power, travel, and sacred queenship. The horse transformed human life wherever it mattered, and Celtic folklore remembered that transformation through sacred meaning. The horse gave speed, status, and reach. It could carry a warrior into danger, draw a chariot, or mark the dignity of a ruler. This practical importance made it spiritually charged. In some traditions, horse imagery gathers around queenship and sovereignty, where command of movement becomes a sign of authority. The figure of Epona, honored in parts of the Celtic and Roman world, shows how deeply this animal could be revered. Some people see horse symbolism as evidence that power was once understood through partnership rather than machinery. The rider depends on a living being with strength of its own. That changes the lesson. Control alone is not mastery. A person who cannot work with the life beneath him is not truly powerful. The horse teaches that leadership requires balance, timing, and respect for the force that carries you. Cattle raids showed that wealth once lived on 4 legs. To understand many Celtic stories, we must remember that cattle were not background animals. They were wealth, food security, status, and survival moving across the landscape. A cattle raid was therefore not a small theft. It could be an attack on a family's future and a public challenge to honor. This makes the drama around stolen herds far more intense than it may sound to modern ears. When a tale turns on cattle, it is really turning on power, pride, and the fragile economics of an older world. Some people find this fascinating because it reminds us that value is never fixed. Today, wealth may appear as numbers on a screen. In those stories, it breathed, needed guarding, and could vanish overnight. The teaching is practical. What a society protects reveals what it worships. When wealth is alive, people understand dependence more directly. A herd teaches that prosperity must be tended, not merely possessed. The Táin turned a stolen bull into an epic moral storm. The great Irish epic begins with a conflict that can sound almost absurd until you understand the stakes. A prized bull becomes the center of rivalry, pride, marriage tension, political ambition, and catastrophic violence. That is what makes the story so brilliant. It shows how a single object of desire can expose everything unstable beneath a society. The bull is not merely an animal. It becomes a pressure point where status and ego collide. The result is a vast tale of warriors, bargains, feats, and consequences. Some people see the epic as a memory of cattle-based power politics magnified into myth. Others are drawn to its almost psychological precision. The war begins because comparison becomes unbearable. One person has something, another person cannot tolerate being without. The teaching lands hard. Many disasters begin with a wound to pride. When desire becomes public competition, a whole community can be dragged into the storm. Queen Medi-B showed ambition as both impressive and dangerous. Queen Medi-B remains gripping because she is not written as a small character. She is commanding, strategic, wealthy, and determined to stand equal in power. That makes her impressive. If her ambition also drives conflict on a scale that becomes destructive, the tension is what keeps her interesting. The stories do not reduce her to a warning against strength. They show strength without enough restraint. That is far more useful. Some people are fascinated by Medi-B because she disrupts simple assumptions about ancient women in myth. She acts, negotiates, desires, and commands. She is not waiting at the edge of the story. Still, the tale asks what happens when self-assertion becomes obsession. The lesson is not that ambition is wrong. Ambition can build, defend, and liberate. But when it demands constant proof, it becomes hungry beyond reason. Medi-B teaches that power must be governed from within, or it begins to govern everything around it. Deirdre's story warns that beauty can become a political burden. Deirdre's tale is tragic because her beauty is treated less like a blessing and more like a force that others try to control. Before she can fully choose her own life, men of power attach destiny, possession, and fear to her existence. That makes the story painfully modern in its emotional truth. A person can be made into a symbol by others, then punished for the desires they project onto her. Deirdre loves, flees, and suffers inside a world where politics reaches into the heart. Some people read her story as a warning about prophecy and the danger of trying to manage fate through control. Others hear a sharper social lesson. When a community treats a human being as a prize, disaster follows. The fascination lies in how personal beauty becomes public crisis. Her life asks a hard question. What happens when the world sees a person's value but not the person herself? The answer is sorrow. Diarmid and Grain made love collide with loyalty and law. This story grips the listener because nobody escapes the moral pressure cleanly. Grain is promised to the older Fionn, yet her desire turns toward Diarmid. Diarmid is bound by loyalty, reputation, and the dangerous force of obligation. When the lovers flee, the tale becomes far more than romance. It becomes a test of social order itself. Love is powerful, but it does not erase the claims of friendship, leadership, and public trust. That is why the story has lasted. It refuses the easy answer. Some people see the pursuit as a mythic pattern about forbidden union and the cost of choosing the heart over the structure that contains it. The lesson is not simple moralizing. Human beings are often pulled by duties that cannot all be satisfied. Desire may feel sacred from inside the heart, while betrayal may feel equally real to those left behind. Folklore keeps the tension alive because life does too. Tristan and Isolde transformed Celtic romance into a European legend. The story of Tristan and Isolde traveled far beyond its Celtic roots and became one of the great love tragedies of medieval Europe. Its power comes from a terrible conflict. Passion rises where loyalty is already owed elsewhere. A love potion sometimes appears in the tale, which makes the problem even stranger. Are the lovers guilty, enchanted, or trapped by a force larger than choice? That ambiguity has kept audiences returning for centuries. Some people read the potion as a symbol for desire itself, because love can feel like an altered state that overrules ordinary judgment. The story's Celtic flavor survives in its sea crossings, dangerous courts, and emotional extremity. Yet its reach became universal, because the central problem is timeless. What do we do when the heart refuses the arrangements of society? The tale does not offer comfort. It shows that love, without rightful place, can become both revelation and ruin. That is why it still burns. Merlin grew from Welsh traditions before becoming Arthur's great magician. Merlin is often imagined as the polished wizard of later Arthurian legend, but his roots are wilder and stranger. Welsh traditions helped shape figures connected with prophecy, madness, wilderness, and inspired speech. Before Merlin became the advisor behind the throne, he carried traces of a more unsettling role. He was the person who had seen too much, lost ordinary stability, and returned with knowledge others could not easily bear. That makes him far more interesting than a simple spellcaster. Some people see his development as evidence of how folklore absorbs older visionary figures into new political stories. A prophet of the margins becomes a counselor to kings. The transformation is remarkable. It suggests that societies often domesticate dangerous wisdom by placing it near power. Yet the older energy remains. Merlin teaches that insight may come from exile, breakdown, and strange experience, not only from orderly learning. The voice outside the court may understand the court better than anyone inside it. Arthurian legend carries Celtic echoes beneath its medieval armor. Arthur is often surrounded by castles, knights, and courtly codes, but beneath that later world are older Celtic currents. Early Welsh material and related traditions suggest a hero connected with borderlands, supernatural challenges, and companions whose adventures do not always fit the polished medieval image. Over time, storytellers dressed Arthur in the clothing of their own age. That process is fascinating because it shows myth adapting to survive. The armor changed, but the deeper charge remained. Some people see Arthur as a memory of a real war leader. Others treat him as a mythic king who gathered many older stories into one shining center. The real magic may be the way the legend keeps absorbing new meanings. Every era gets the Arthur it needs. The teaching is about cultural memory. A story can wear many costumes without losing its pulse. When a myth remains alive, it does not stay frozen. It keeps returning in forms people can recognize. Welsh tales preserved wonder through the Mabinogion's strange transformations. The Mabinogion is one of the great treasure houses of medieval Welsh storytelling because it refuses to make wonder neat. Its tales move through enchanted births, impossible bargains, altered bodies, cunning tests, and sudden reversals. Yet beneath the strangeness is a sharp interest in honor, kinship, justice, and consequence. That combination is what makes the collection so captivating. It does not separate the magical from the social. A supernatural event still changes inheritance, marriage, rule, or reputation. Some people are drawn to these stories because they feel like fragments of older myth preserved inside courtly narrative. Others simply feel their dreamlike logic and recognize that the human problems are real. The teaching is that life often changes form before we understand its meaning. A strange event may look random at first, but later reveal the hidden structure of a relationship. The Mabinogion reminds us that wonder is not an escape from reality. It is another way reality speaks. Rhiannon endured injustice with patience, dignity, and hidden strength. Rhiannon's story is unforgettable because her suffering is public, undeserved, and long. She is falsely accused of a terrible loss, then forced into humiliation as punishment. Many tales would make such a character passive, but Rhiannon's power lies in endurance without inner collapse. She carries herself with dignity, while the truth waits to emerge. That makes her one of the most emotionally powerful figures in Welsh tradition. Some people see her as a sovereignty figure whose mistreatment signals a deeper disorder in the court. Others focus on the human lesson. False judgment can steal reputation, comfort, and time, but it does not have to steal the self. Her patience is not weakness. It is controlled strength under pressure. The story asks listeners to consider how easily communities accept a convenient accusation. It also asks what kind of person remains whole when justice is delayed. Rhiannon teaches that truth may be slow, yet dignity can survive the waiting. Bran the Blessed made kingship feel immense, wounded, and generous. Bran is a giant figure in more than size. His story carries a sense of leadership stretched beyond ordinary human limits. He crosses into conflict for the sake of his sister, and the consequences become devastating. What remains most striking is not triumph, but sacrifice. Even after mortal injury, his presence continues to guide his companions. His severed head becomes a source of companionship and strange protection during a period outside normal grief. That detail is bizarre, but also deeply moving. Some people see Bran as a mythic image of the king whose duty continues after personal defeat. Others hear echoes of ancient beliefs about the head as a seat of power. The lesson is not comfortable. Leadership may require giving more than command. It may require the body, the future, and the right to an ordinary ending. Bran teaches that greatness is not always victorious. Sometimes it is the capacity to keep giving after the wound has already arrived. Math's court stories joined magic, consequence, and social order. The tales surrounding Math are strange in the best possible way because they show magic operating inside a world of rules. Enchantment does not remove consequence. It intensifies it. Personal misconduct, deception, and desire ripple outward into punishment, transformation, and political disruption. That makes these stories feel morally alert rather than random. Magic becomes a way of making hidden disorder visible. When someone violates trust, the world itself seems to answer through extraordinary events. Some people read these tales as remnants of old legal and ritual thinking preserved through narrative. Others are fascinated by how uncomfortable they remain. They do not flatter human impulse. They show that cleverness can create damage beyond what the clever person intended. The teaching is precise. Power does not excuse disorder. A person with access to hidden knowledge is more accountable, not less. In Math's world, the invisible does not free people from responsibility. It brings responsibility closer until no one can pretend ignorance. Blodeuwedd was made from flowers yet chose her own path. Dao. Blodeuwedd is one of the most unsettling figures in Welsh myth because she begins as a created woman, shaped by magic, to answer a man's need. That origin already raises a profound question. Can a being made for someone else still possess a will of her own? The story answers in a way that is complicated and uncomfortable. She chooses desire, betrayal, and action, then faces transformation as punishment. Some people see her as a warning about manufactured obedience. Others view her as a figure of autonomy emerging from an impossible situation. The power of the tale lies in refusing to make her simple. She is victim, agent, and transgressor, all at once. That complexity feels startlingly modern. The lesson is that life made to serve another person's design will still seek its own direction. Control may produce form, but it cannot guarantee loyalty. A soul is not an object, even when magic tries to build one. Taliesin's legend turned poetic inspiration into a magical rebirth. Taliesin is fascinating because his origin story treats poetic genius as the result of transformation rather than ordinary talent. The child Gwian gains forbidden wisdom, flees through changing forms, is swallowed, reborn, and becomes the inspired bard Taliesin. This is storytelling at its most astonishing. Knowledge is not simply learned, it remakes the learner. The chase through different bodies suggests that insight can move through many states before it becomes speech. Some people see the tale as an encoded initiation story, where death and rebirth describe a dramatic change in consciousness. Others hear a lesson about creativity. True inspiration may require the old self to be broken open. Taliesin does not become powerful by collecting information. He becomes a new kind of person. The teaching is direct. Words that carry real force must come from transformation. A person can speak beautifully from skill, but prophetic speech comes from having passed through something that ordinary language can barely hold. Ceridwen's cauldron showed wisdom escaping control through unexpected change. Ceridwen prepares a potion of inspiration for her son, and the plan appears clear. Wisdom is meant to be directed, contained, and delivered to the chosen recipient. Yet the story turns when Gwion accidentally receives the drops that matter most. What follows is a wild sequence of pursuit and transformation, as if knowledge itself has broken loose from ownership. That is the genius of the tale. It understands that wisdom cannot always be managed by intention. Once awakened, it moves according to its own logic. Some people see Ceridwen as a keeper of dangerous knowledge, almost an alchemist of the spirit. Others focus on the maternal motive that begins the story. She wants advantage for her child, but the power she prepares refuses to obey the original design. The lesson is humbling. We may create conditions for insight, but we do not fully control who receives it or what it becomes. Real wisdom is alive, and living things escape cages. The children of Lur transformed grief into endurance across generations. The Children of Lur is one of the most heartbreaking tales in Irish tradition because its suffering lasts beyond a single lifetime. The children are changed into swans and condemned to endure vast stretches of time across lonely waters. What makes the story powerful is not only the enchantment, it is the duration. Grief is shown as something that must be carried through changing eras until the world itself has become different. Their love for one another becomes the thread that keeps them from being spiritually destroyed. Some people hear in the tale memories of cultural loss, where old ways survive only in altered form. Others focus on the family bond at its center. The children lose their human bodies, their home, and their time, yet they do not lose their shared identity. The teaching is deeply moving. Endurance is not the absence of sorrow. It is the ability to remain faithful while sorrow keeps changing the landscape around you. Fairy forts were respected because disturbing them invited misfortune. Across Ireland, many old ring forts and earthworks became associated with the fairy world, and people often avoided damaging them. That belief may sound superstitious, but its effects are fascinating. Stories of misfortune protected ancient places from casual destruction. A farmer might leave a mound untouched, not because of archaeology, but because the local memory warned against interference. This turns folklore into a kind of preservation system. The land was guarded by fear, respect, and inherited caution. Some people enjoy the more speculative idea that these sites were seen as active points of hidden power. Others simply notice how effective the stories could be. A place with a warning survives longer than a place without one. The lesson is wider than fairy belief. Human beings need reasons to restrain themselves. If profit is the only voice in the mind, old things disappear. Folklore says there are places you should not disturb, merely because you can. Hawthorn trees were often avoided as homes of hidden beings. The hawthorn holds a strange place in Celtic folk belief because it can appear ordinary and charged at the same time. A lone hawthorn, especially near an old mound or field boundary, might be treated with extreme caution. People told stories of illness, bad luck, or disruption following careless cutting. That makes the tree more than a plant in local imagination. It becomes a living boundary marker between human use and hidden ownership. Some people see hawthorn traditions as remnants of older sacred tree reverence. Others think they helped protect important ecological features without formal law. The fascination is that a small tree could command more obedience than a written warning. The tale worked because it gave consequence to disrespect. The teaching is simple and strong. Not every living thing is yours to reshape. Some presences ask to be left alone. A wise person does not need proof of danger before practicing restraint. Lone trees could become landmarks of caution and reverence. A solitary tree in a field can gather more stories than an entire forest. Because it stands apart, people notice it, remember it, and pass warnings about it from one generation to the next. In Celtic folk landscapes, such trees might be linked with fairies, saints, boundaries, burials, or inexplicable events. The exact explanation could vary, but the effect was similar. The tree became a point of attention. Travelers used it for orientation. Locals used it as a reminder. Children learned that the world contained places where ordinary behavior should change. Some people are fascinated by how folklore turns geography into memory. A lone tree is easy to see, easy to name, and easy to protect through story. The lesson is that reverence often begins with noticing one particular thing deeply. We do not learn care by loving nature in general. We learn it by encountering a living presence that makes us slow down. Mist often marked a crossing into uncertain spiritual territory. Mist is one of the most effective elements in Celtic storytelling because it changes the rules of sight. A familiar road becomes uncertain. A hill becomes half-hidden. A shoreline seems to appear and vanish. That physical experience makes it perfect for tales of crossing into the otherworld or entering danger without realizing it. People did not need to invent the strangeness from nothing. The weather itself taught them how quickly certainty can dissolve. Some people connect mist legends with altered perception, trance, or the feeling of stepping between states of consciousness. The idea is captivating because it turns a natural condition into a spiritual threshold. When vision weakens, imagination strengthens. The lesson is practical and psychological. We often believe we are safe because we can see clearly. When clarity fades, humility should rise. Mist teaches that there are moments when the wise person slows down, listens harder, and refuses to pretend the path is obvious. Islands became perfect settings for tests, revelations, and returns. An island is naturally dramatic because it is separated from ordinary life. To reach it, a person must cross water, leave the familiar shore, and accept the risk of return. That makes it ideal for Celtic tales of trial and discovery. An island can hold a saint, a monster, a hidden kingdom, or a lesson no one could learn at home. The separation matters. It creates a space where normal rules can bend without breaking the whole world. Some people see mythic islands as maps of inner experience, places the mind reaches only after crossing fear. Others connect them with real seafaring cultures that knew the ocean could reveal wonders as well as dangers. The teaching is clear. Some truths require distance from the life that formed our habits. We may need to leave the shore before we can see what was shaping us. Yet the return matters, because revelation must eventually meet ordinary life again. Caves suggested entrances to older powers beneath ordinary life. A cave is one of the oldest invitations in human imagination because it leads downward, inward, and out of sight. In Celtic folklore, such places could feel like openings into a deeper order beneath the everyday world. A hillside may look still from the outside, yet inside it may hold echo, darkness, cold air, and the disturbing sense that the land has an interior life. That is why caves became natural settings for hidden beings, buried treasure, sleeping heroes, and encounters that change a person's mind. Some people see these stories as memories of initiation, where entering darkness represented crossing into fear before returning with knowledge. Others treat them as warnings about places that demanded care. The lesson is strong, either way. Human life is not only built on the surface. Beneath ordinary habits are older forces, including grief, instinct, memory, and awe. The person who enters them carelessly may be lost. The person who enters with respect may return wiser. Rivers were honored as living forces with memory and agency. A river is never still, and that made it spiritually powerful in the Celtic imagination. It carries water from one place to another, feeds settlements, marks boundaries, and changes the land without asking permission. In many traditions, rivers were connected with divine presence because they behaved like living beings. They could give, take, conceal, reveal, and endure beyond generations. This is not difficult to understand. People depended on flowing water with an intimacy modern life often hides. Some people believe river reverence preserves very old knowledge about landscape energy and sacred geography. Even without that idea, the respect makes sense. A community that dishonors its water slowly harms itself. Folklore gives the river a personality so that people remember relationship rather than ownership. The teaching is practical and deep. What sustains us should not be treated as a tool without voice. A wise person learns to watch the current before deciding where to step. Wells invited people to seek healing through ritual attention. A well can look simple, yet it gathers several meanings into one place. It is a source of water, a point of return, and a meeting between surface life and the hidden underground. In Celtic regions, wells often became places where people brought illness, hope, prayer, and small offerings. The important detail is the repeated active approach. A person does not simply take water and leave. He comes with need. He performs a gesture. He accepts that healing may involve patience and humility. Some people are fascinated by the idea that generations of belief could make a place feel charged, as if human longing leaves an imprint. Others understand the practice as disciplined focus, which can steady suffering even before a cure appears. The lesson is still useful. Attention changes experience. When pain is met with ritual care, it stops being only a private burden. It becomes part of a relationship with place, memory, and hope. Offerings taught that relationship with place required gratitude. To leave an offering is to admit that taking is not the whole story. In Celtic folk practice, people might give something small at a well, tree, stone, or boundary because the place was not treated as empty. This does not have to be understood as payment in a crude sense. It is better understood as acknowledgement. The human being receives water, shelter, harvest, guidance, or protection, then responds with a sign of respect. Some people see offerings as remnants of an older contract between human communities and the powers of the land. Others see them as psychological training against entitlement. Both readings are compelling. The act teaches that gratitude should become visible. A feeling hidden inside the chest can fade quickly. A gesture marks the relationship and reminds the giver that he is not alone in the world. The wisdom is simple. When you receive from a place, do not behave as if nothing was given. Pilgrimage paths turned walking into a disciplined spiritual act. Walking can become more than movement when it is done with intention. Across Celtic, Christian, and folk landscapes, journeys to holy wells, sacred hills, island monasteries, and ancient sites turned the body itself into part of devotion. The path mattered because effort mattered. A person arrived changed by distance, weather, fatigue, and anticipation. That is very different from consuming a story while remaining untouched. Pilgrimage teaches through the feet. Some people see these routes as lines of power across the land, while others see them as social memory held in repeated motion. Either way, the practice is fascinating because it makes wisdom physical. You do not merely believe. You go. You carry your question through mud, wind, and silence until the destination becomes earned. The lesson is direct. Insight often requires movement before understanding. A person may think he is walking toward a shrine, but the journey may be rearranging him long before he reaches it. Liminal places mattered because thresholds were spiritually charged. A threshold is powerful because it is neither fully one thing nor another. The doorway is not the room. The shoreline is not the sea. The bridge is not either bank. Celtic folklore understood such places as charged with possibility because ordinary rules feel less settled there. This is why so many encounters happen at boundaries. The human mind senses vulnerability at the edge of change. A person crossing from one state to another becomes more alert, and folklore gives that alertness a supernatural language. Some people connect threshold beliefs with old ritual systems that marked birth, marriage, death, and seasonal change. The deeper point is timeless. Transitions deserve attention. When we rush through them, we miss the danger and the gift. A wise person pauses at the edge before stepping across. In that pause, pride softens. The next world, the next season, or the next version of the self has not fully arrived yet. Twilight carried danger because boundaries were harder to trust. Twilight unsettles the eye. Shapes are visible, but not clear. Roads remain familiar, yet their edges become uncertain. In Celtic folklore, this in-between hour often suited strange encounters because the world itself seemed to be changing states. It was not full day, and it was not full night. That ambiguity made it the perfect time for caution. A traveler might misread a path. A sound might seem closer than it was. A figure in the distance might be human, animal, or something else entirely. Some people see twilight beliefs as survival wisdom wrapped in supernatural story. Others enjoy the idea that perception itself opens a door when ordinary certainty fades. The lesson works both ways. Do not trust every impression formed in half-light. Many mistakes begin when we act before we can truly see. Twilight teaches patience. Wait for clearer vision, or move slowly enough that uncertainty cannot easily lead you into harm. Dawn restored order after nights of uncertainty and encounter. After a night of strange stories, dawn matters. It brings shape back to the landscape and returns confidence to the human eye. In Celtic folklore, many troubling encounters lose power when morning comes, not because fear was foolish, but because time has turned again. Night belongs to vulnerability. Dawn belongs to recognition. A road can be found. A face can be seen. A house can be reached. This daily return of order gave people a natural symbol for survival. Some people see dawn as a built-in ritual of the world, a repeated proof that darkness has limits. That idea is comforting without being naive. The night may contain real danger, confusion, or grief, yet it does not receive the final word every time. The teaching is steady and practical. When the mind is troubled, it may be wiser to endure than to decide. Some truths become clearer after the light has returned. Dreams could bring messages that waking reason might ignore. Dreams held power in Celtic storytelling because they arrived from beyond ordinary control. A person could go to sleep with one life and wake with a warning. a summons, or a desire that changed everything. Such dreams were not always treated as random images. They could carry guidance from a hidden layer of reality, or from a part of the self that speech had not reached. This is why dream episodes often feel charged with destiny. Some people connect them with ancient practices of incubation, where a person sought healing or instruction through sleep near a sacred place. Others hear a psychological truth. The mind keeps working when conscious pride relaxes. It arranges symbols, fears, and longings into stories that can be hard to dismiss. The lesson is not to believe every dream blindly. It is to listen before rejecting. Waking reason is useful, but it does not hear every voice within the human being. Prophecy often arrived through riddles, warnings, and unsettling signs. Prophecy in Celtic lore rarely feels like a neat announcement. It often comes in a strange form that demands interpretation. A riddle may conceal the meaning. A warning may be ignored because it wounds pride. A sign may make sense only after the event has unfolded. This gives prophecy its dramatic power. The future does not simply arrive. It speaks in a way that tests whether people are wise enough to listen. Some people see these stories as ancient studies in pattern recognition. The gifted seer notices what others dismiss. The ruler or hero fails because he wants certainty without humility. That is why prophetic episodes remain so gripping. They are less about predicting dates and more about reading consequence before it becomes unavoidable. The teaching is severe. Life often warns us before it breaks us. The warning may be indirect, inconvenient, or embarrassing. If we demand that truth flatter us first, we may miss the message entirely. Enchantment tested whether desire could overpower wisdom. Enchantment is dangerous in Celtic stories because it does not always begin with fear. It begins with attraction. A person sees a beautiful figure, hears a strange song, enters a splendid place, or receives an offer that feels too meaningful to refuse. The mind leans forward before judgment has caught up. That is the trap. These tales understand how desire changes perception. Under enchantment, a warning can sound like an insult, and danger can feel like destiny. Some people enjoy reading these moments as coded accounts of altered states, glamour, hypnosis, or psychological influence. The old storytellers did not need modern terms. They knew that longing can rewrite reality from the inside. The lesson is not to reject beauty or wonder. It is to remain awake inside them. A wise person asks what a desire is doing to his judgment. The most powerful spell may be the one that convinces us we are completely free while we obey it. Glamour showed that appearances may be crafted to deceive. Glamour, in Celtic and later Scottish tradition, can mean a kind of deceptive enchantment, where something appears other than it is. A poor object may seem splendid. A dangerous being may seem harmless. A ruined place may appear like a hall of delight. This idea is endlessly fascinating because it touches a fear that is still modern. What if the surface has been designed to control your response? Folklore gives that fear a magical language, yet the insight is practical. Human beings are vulnerable to presentation. We trust polish, beauty, confidence, and spectacle before asking what lies beneath. Some people connect glamour with hidden arts of perception, as if old tales preserved knowledge about manipulating attention. Whether magical or psychological, the lesson is clear. Do not surrender judgment to appearance. Look again. Ask what the display wants from you. A wise mind learns to separate radiance from truth, because not every shining thing is honest. Hidden music could lure listeners beyond familiar human life. Music has a special power in Celtic folklore because it enters the body before the mind can argue. A tune heard from an unseen source may draw a person toward a hill, a dance, a gathering, or a realm outside ordinary time. That makes hidden music one of the most seductive supernatural signs. It does not threaten. It invites. The danger is that the listener may forget where he belongs. Some people connect these stories with trance, ritual rhythm, and the altered awareness that sound can produce. Anyone who has been moved by music understands the foundation of the belief. Sound can change mood, memory, and desire within moments. Folklore simply extends that truth until music becomes a doorway. The lesson is subtle. Beauty can carry us upward, but it can also carry us away. The wise listener notices not only how a song feels, but where it is leading. Not every invitation should be followed to the end. Fairy time warned that pleasure can quietly steal whole years. One of the most chilling ideas in Celtic folklore is that time may not move the same way everywhere. A person enters a fairy gathering, enjoys music, dancing, company, or delight, then returns to find that far more time has passed than expected. The terror is not pain. It is loss hidden inside pleasure. This makes the motif unforgettable because it speaks to something deeply human. We can vanish into comfort, distraction, or fascination, then discover that life has moved on without our consent. Some people see these tales as hints of other dimensions or altered time states. Others hear a moral warning about losing contact with duty and home. Both readings keep the story alive. The lesson is powerful. Pleasure is not evil, but it can blur the clock inside the soul. A wise person asks what a delight is costing. The sweetest experience may become sorrow if it steals the years we meant to live. Returning heroes often found their old world already gone. Few motifs in Celtic folklore are more haunting than the hero who comes back too late. He leaves, crosses into wonder, exile, battle, or enchantment, then returns expecting recognition. Instead, the old houses are changed, the familiar names are gone, and the people who once knew him have become memory. This is powerful because it reveals that return is not guaranteed, even when the body survives. A person can outlive his own world. Some people connect these tales with migration, cultural upheaval, and the emotional shock of coming home after transformation. Others hear a deeper spiritual warning. Extraordinary experience can remove you from ordinary time. The lesson is tender and hard. Do not assume that what you leave will wait unchanged. Every departure has a cost. Every quest asks for payment in distance. When we return, we may need to grieve the world we expected before we can meet the world that remains. Exile became a path where loss slowly turned into insight. Exile appears again and again because leaving home is one of the deepest human disruptions. In Celtic stories, the exile may be forced by conflict, shame, danger, or destiny. At first, the loss is practical and emotional. The person loses protection, belonging, familiar speech, and the confidence of place. Yet the road can become a teacher. Away from home, a person discovers what was truly valuable, what was illusion, and what part of the self can survive without applause. Some people see exile tales as memories of real social instability turned into spiritual teaching. Others connect them with initiation, where separation strips away a former identity. The lesson is not that loss is secretly easy. It is that loss can become meaningful if it deepens perception. The exile learns by being removed from comfort. When the old world is taken away, the soul may finally hear truths that familiarity kept too quiet to notice. Warriors sought glory, but stories remembered their wounds. Celtic heroic tales can celebrate bravery, but they rarely let the listener forget the cost. A warrior may win fame through combat, yet the story often keeps track of grief, injury, broken loyalties, and early death. That makes the tradition more mature than simple hero worship. It knows that glory has a shadow. The feast may praise the fighter, while the body carries the price. Some people are drawn to these tales because they feel like ancient warnings against romanticizing violence. Others see them as honest records of societies where courage was necessary but never free. The lesson is important. Admiration should not make us blind. A shining name may conceal loneliness, fear, and damage. The old storytellers preserved the wound so that praise would not become foolish. True courage deserves respect, but so does the suffering it creates. Wisdom can honor the brave without pretending that battle leaves the human spirit untouched. Wisdom often belonged to the patient listener rather than the loudest fighter. Many Celtic stories are full of action, yet the deepest turning points often depend on listening. The person who hears a warning, remembers a verse, notices an omen, or respects a strange instruction may survive where stronger people fail. This is a crucial lesson because it challenges the obvious hero model. Noise is not wisdom. Force is not perception. The warrior who rushes ahead may miss the one detail that matters. Some people see this as evidence that ancient storytelling valued trained attention as highly as courage. The listener gathers what others waste. He allows meaning to arrive before acting. That gives him a different kind of power. The lesson is very useful for modern life. Many people are fighting for attention, but fewer are actually receiving truth. A patient listener can detect the shift in tone, the hidden motive, or the pattern beneath events. In folklore, that sensitivity can be the difference between triumph and ruin. Elders held authority because experience was treated as living treasure. In many traditional societies, age carried authority not merely because a person had survived, but because survival had gathered memory. An elder had seen seasons fail, promises break, leaders rise, and families endure. That kind of knowledge could not be rushed. Celtic folklore often respects figures who carry old stories, warnings and judgments that younger people ignore at their peril. The fascination is that experience becomes almost like a sacred resource. It is not stored in a vault. It lives in a voice. Some people see elder wisdom as a hidden technology of continuity, a way for communities to survive without written manuals for every crisis. The teaching is clear. A culture that mocks age may lose access to tested knowledge. Youth brings energy, but energy without memory can repeat old disasters with fresh confidence. The elder reminds us that time itself can become a teacher if a person suffers, observes, and remembers honestly. Apprenticeship mattered because sacred knowledge required discipline and trust. In folklore and tradition, serious knowledge is rarely tossed to the unprepared. It is guarded, tested, and passed through relationship. The apprentice must serve before commanding. He must watch before speaking. He must prove patience before receiving deeper instruction. This pattern appears around poets, healers, craftspeople, and figures who handle hidden wisdom. The reason is simple. Power without formation is dangerous. Some people connect apprenticeship to initiatory systems, where the student is slowly reshaped so that knowledge does not inflate the ego. The idea feels ancient, but it remains true. Anyone can collect fragments of information. Far fewer can become worthy of using them. Trust matters because the teacher is not only transferring technique, he is studying character. Will this person become careful, generous, and steady? Or will he use knowledge for pride? The lesson is demanding. Before asking for secrets, become someone who would not misuse them. The vessel must be prepared before it is filled. Folklore preserved moral training inside stories people wanted to remember. A rule can be forgotten quickly, but a vivid story can survive for centuries. That is one reason folklore is so powerful. It teaches without sounding like instruction. A child may remember the dangerous horse by the water, the stranger at the door, the bargain with hidden cost, or the hero undone by pride. Later, those images become inner warnings. This is moral education disguised as entertainment. Some people see folk stories as ancient programming for survival, using emotion and imagination to make lessons stick. That may sound modern, yet it describes what storytelling has always done. It places consequence inside memory. The listener does not merely hear that greed is dangerous. He watches greed take form and lead someone into trouble. The teaching is clear. Human beings learn best when truth has a shape. A dry command may fade by morning. A gripping tale can remain in the mind for a lifetime. Christian monks helped preserve tales that carried older spiritual echoes. Many Celtic stories reached us because medieval Christian scribes wrote them down. That fact is fascinating because preservation and transformation happened together. The scribes belonged to a Christian world, yet their recorded material filled with older gods, heroes, magical objects, and strange journeys. Sometimes they reshaped the tales. Sometimes they framed them in new ways. Yet much of the older power remained visible through the manuscript surface. Some people see this as a cultural compromise, where stories too beloved to erase were carried forward under new guardianship. Others marvel at the tension itself. A tradition can survive inside the hands of people who no longer believe it in the same way. The lesson is subtle. Memory does not always travel through perfect agreement. Sometimes it survives through adaptation, translation, and even discomfort. The past reaches us because someone decided it was still worth keeping. Without that decision, whole worlds of imagination might have vanished. Oral tradition kept changing stories alive across languages and islands. A spoken story is alive in a way a fixed text is not. Each teller receives it, remembers it, reshapes it, and gives it back to the community. Across Celtic languages and island cultures, this allowed tales to travel while remaining connected to local needs. A hero's name might change. A location might shift. A moral emphasis might grow sharper for one audience than another. That flexibility can frustrate anyone looking for one original version, but it is also the reason the tradition stayed vibrant. Some people see oral storytelling as a living network, carrying memory through voices rather than pages. The lesson is important. Preservation does not always mean freezing something. Sometimes it means allowing it to breathe. A story that can adapt may survive storms that destroy rigid forms. The spoken tale teaches that identity can remain recognizable, even while details change. Living wisdom is not dead repetition. It is faithful renewal. Local legends made each landscape feel personal and morally awake. A field, bridge, mound, lake, or road becomes different when a story belongs to it. In Celtic folklore, local legends turned ordinary geography into a landscape filled with warning and meaning. A person did not move through anonymous space. He passed places where something had happened, or where something might still happen if respect failed. This is one reason local storytelling is so powerful. It makes people morally alert to the ground beneath them. Some people are fascinated by the idea that legends encode old boundaries, hazards, memories, and community rules. Others simply notice the emotional effect. A named place with a tale becomes harder to treat carelessly. The teaching is that belonging grows through attention. When people know the stories of where they live, the land stops being a backdrop. It becomes a companion in memory. A wise community does not only ask who lives here now, it asks what the place remembers. Supernatural bargains warned that cleverness is not the same as wisdom. Bargain stories are irresistible because they begin with opportunity. A human meets a hidden being, receives an offer, and believes he can manage the terms. The listener already senses the danger. Folklore knows that clever people often overestimate themselves when desire is involved. A bargain with a supernatural force may sound precise, but the meaning can bend in unexpected ways. The wording matters. The intention matters. The unseen consequences matter most of all. Some people see these tales as warnings about contracts with powers beyond human understanding. Others hear a practical lesson about greed and shortcuts. The result is the same. A person may win the argument and still lose the life he wanted. Cleverness solves the immediate puzzle. Wisdom asks whether the game should be played at all. These stories teach that not every door should be opened because it offers reward. The price may be hidden inside the very thing we think we have gained. Gifts from the Otherworld often carried obligations that changed everything. In Celtic folklore, a supernatural gift is rarely free in the simple sense. A weapon, animal, musical skill, healing object, or promise from beyond the ordinary world may bring power, but it also brings a bond. The receiver becomes responsible to a new order of reality. That is what makes these stories so compelling. They understand that blessing can be dangerous when treated as possession. Some people see otherworld gifts as symbols of talent, charisma, or sudden opportunity. A person receives something unusual, then must live under the pressure of using it rightly. Others enjoy the more mysterious possibility that such tales remember encounters with forces outside normal human life. The lesson is the same either way. When something extraordinary enters your hands, your old life may no longer fit. A gift can open doors, but it can also close the option of innocence. Power received without reverence becomes a burden waiting to reveal its teeth. Respect for mystery helped people live carefully among unknown forces. Celtic folklore does not treat mystery as a puzzle that must be conquered immediately. It often treats mystery as a reality that deserves manners. This is a striking difference from the modern impulse to explain, dismiss, or exploit everything at speed. In the old stories, people survive by recognizing limits. They avoid certain places. They speak carefully. They keep promises. They make offerings. They listen to warnings. The point is not fear for its own sake. It is disciplined humility. Some people are drawn to this because it leaves room for the unknown without demanding blind belief. The world becomes wider, and human certainty becomes smaller. That can be healthy. The lesson is practical. When you do not understand a force, do not begin by mocking it. Observe. Approach slowly. Consider what others remembered. A life with mystery is not a life without reason. It is a life where reason has learned not to swagger. Celtic folklore teaches that wonder and caution can belong together. Modern people often separate curiosity from restraint. We assume wonder means rushing toward the strange, while caution means closing the door. Celtic folklore offers a better balance. The unknown is fascinating, but it is not automatically safe. A beautiful realm may cost years. A hidden being may bless or harm. A powerful object may arrive with rules attached. This makes the tradition unusually mature. It invites awe, without turning the mind into a fool. Some people love these stories because they feel like field reports from the edge of ordinary reality, where marvels are real and consequences are sharper than expected. The teaching is deeply useful. Do not let fear make your world small. Do not let fascination make your judgment weak. The wise path keeps both eyes open. One eye sees possibility, the other sees price. Together, they allow a person to meet mystery without becoming its toy. Its deepest lesson is that every place may be more than it seems. A hill may carry a story. A tree may mark a boundary. A spring may hold prayer. A ruin may gather warnings that no signpost can explain. Celtic folklore trains the mind to look again at the physical world and ask what layers are present beneath the obvious. This does not require abandoning reason. It requires adding memory, humility, and curiosity to perception. Some people interpret these layers as spiritual realities. Others understand them as cultural meanings built across centuries. Either way, the effect is powerful. The world becomes less disposable. A place that may contain more than it shows is harder to damage casually. The lesson reaches into daily life. We often flatten people, homes, landscapes, and traditions because we are moving too fast to perceive depth. Folklore slows us down. It says that before you judge a place as empty, learn what has been loved there, feared there, and remembered there. These old stories still ask us to live with reverence. The final power of Celtic folklore is not that it explains everything. It is that it changes the way a person stands in the world. After listening to these tales, a road may feel less ordinary. A promise may feel heavier. A landscape may seem to hold more memory than we first allowed. That is the real wisdom of the tradition. It does not demand that every listener believe every supernatural detail in the same way. It asks for a deeper posture toward life. Some people will hear ancient religion. Others will hear psychology, ecological warning, or ancestral imagination. The stories can carry all of that because they are built from human wonder and human fear. Their teaching remains clear. Do not live as if nothing is sacred. Do not treat mystery as emptiness. Do not move through the world like an owner without obligations. Reverence is not weakness. It is intelligence touched by humility, and humility may be the beginning of wisdom. And so we come to the end of our journey through Celtic folklore. We have wandered through a world where hills could hold hidden people, where wells were approached with care, where trees were treated as more than timber, and where a promise could shape the fate of a hero. We have met warriors whose glory carried a cost, rulers who had to answer to the land, and travelers who learned that the most beautiful places are not always free from sorrow. These stories remind us that the old Celtic imagination did not see life as flat or empty. It saw the world as layered. A road could become a threshold. A river could become a presence. A stranger could become a test. Even the smallest act, a word spoken, a gift received, a boundary crossed, could carry meaning. And perhaps that is why these tales still hold us. They ask us to move more slowly through life. They ask us to listen before we judge. They ask us to remember that not everything valuable can be measured, owned, or explained too quickly. So now, let those old stories begin to settle. Let the mist drift back over the hills. Let the fire burn low in the hall. Let the sound of distant water become softer in the mind. If you enjoyed this sleepy journey, you are warmly invited to like, subscribe, or leave a thought below. It helps others find their way here too. And if you happen to still be awake, There should be another video waiting on the screen, ready to carry you a little further. But for now, there is nothing more you need to follow. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing become easy. Allow the day to loosen its hold, and let your thoughts grow quieter with each passing moment. Sleep well, and good night.